Hi everyone, I'm Andrew Featherstone, the geography teacher at Bede. Welcome to our virtual preview. And as part of our virtual preview, if you've got any questions at all, you can submit them via the Q&A function. It'd be nice to have some questions to answer at the end of it. I just want to take you through just a little bit of an introduction about the subject, about myself, about the course that you're doing. So, first of all, geography, as we know, is a subject which is more than just colouring in. It's one of the most exciting, time-relevant and global issue-focused subjects that there is. In terms of issues, almost every issue you've seen in the news recently over the past few months while you've been at home has a very strong link to geography. Everything from managing population movement, disease, pollution, recovering economies and education all tie in very, very much to the geography curriculum that we study here at Bede. Sitting at home watching the news is an ideal opportunity to educate yourself about everything that geography can do. In terms of where geography can lead you, and I'll come back to this again later, it gives you the opportunity to work in the environmental field, the energy sector, and also in things like the civil service and teaching. I thought I'd give you a little bit of a background on myself. So this isn't my first experience at Bede. I was here back many moons ago in 1998 to 2000. My beard that has gone significantly greyer over recent weeks didn't exist, and I was actually a student here back in the old building. But what really struck me about Bede was its supportive learning culture, its small focused environment, and the friendships that you can make in the place. So when I had the opportunity to come back to Bede as a member of staff, sort of 15 years later, I jumped at the chance. Thought I'd tell you a little bit about myself. After leaving Bede, I went to Durham University, where I studied geography, environment and development. Having studied geography, environment and development, I particularly enjoyed specialising in identity, population and urban change. From there, I then went on to Durham University again to study teacher training and qualified as not surprisingly, a geography teacher. I've been teaching for now 15 years, and in doing that, I've worked in the secondary sector across North Yorkshire and Teesside for 10 years, and I've been working in the A-level sector now for 5 years. I am an examiner for both GCSE and A-level, which gives me the opportunity to bring in a lot of skills to the students that I teach here. So I want to sort of go on and tell you a little bit about what we do in terms of the content of the course and what it's about. So I'll take you through that with both first year and second year in mind. So talking about first year is obviously year 12, and as part of that we're looking realistically at covering three main topics. So the three topics that we cover are glaciation, tectonics and changing places. And when we look at those topics, in glaciation we're looking at the cause of landforms and processes, but also the human interaction with that, ranging from on a very small scale, people using the environment for tourism, to very large scale issues like climate change in Antarctica having a global impact. In changing places, we look at the dynamics of both the urban and rural environment, and where we're placed in Teesside, you can't see out the window, but I can today, gives us an ideal opportunity to study our very local environment and see how processes that you study are applicable in these places very, very close to home. We look at issues that are very, very topical at the moment, such as segregation, redevelopment, the change in economy, but also we look at things such as regeneration of towns and cities, which is obviously very apt at the moment with us coming out of lockdown and looking at how the urban retail environment is changing. That's something that we look at. We also look at rural change. So as we know, there's more and more people in the country, And as part of that, there's more and more pressure for housing, and we see developments taking place in rural areas, which are vastly changing the landscape. We then have tectonics. Tectonics, you know, it's pretty much what it says on the tin, really. It's tectonic processes and landscapes, but also looking at the cause and effect relationship of case studies. So looking at why disasters are worse in some places and others, despite them having some similarities. In terms of second year has a series of different topics which tie together nicely. So we have water and carbon, where we're looking at the physical processes of the water and carbon cycle and how humans can alter those, which again is very, very topical, looking at things like building in river basins, looking at things such as carbon sequestration and carbon capture. Also, news stories such as things like fracking come into the carbon cycle as well. So things that we're hearing about going on in North Yorkshire, not a million miles from us, again come into our curriculum. We also look at migration in the world's oceans. So we look at everything from economic migrants, Donald Trump's border war with Mexico, to how refugees and asylum seekers are treated, mistreated, the policies that exist. In terms of the oceans, this is probably one of the more exciting sort of subtopics that exist, but we really go on and look at the issues of piracy and global trade and how that's changing. And as part of that, over previous years, we've gone to a number of ports and looked at how they're dealing with this changing environment. We also look at development in Africa. So as part of development in Africa, we're looking at how the continent of Africa has both been hindered by human and physical processes. So hindered by things such as a lack of fertile soil, poor weather conditions, but also how human processes, so for example, corrupt government, lack of formal economy in some areas has held the continent back. And then the final topic which you study in second year relates to energy and the challenges that we face. And this is a really good topic because it looks at both small scale issues, so household, up to global issues and solutions. I think the next logical thing really to tell you about is how we actually assess you. So your assessment is through 3 papers. The 3 papers are not really originally named, but paper 1, paper 2 and paper 3. Paper 1 is a paper which focuses upon glaciation and changing places along with fieldwork skills. So in those papers, the largest marks are 15 marks, so it's very similar to a 12-mark GCSE questions, a mix of short and long answer questions in that paper. So it's a very good first paper to approach because it gives you a smooth transition from GCSE up to A level. The second paper, paper 2, focuses upon migration and oceans and the water and carbon cycle. And in doing that, it's again another paper with long and short answer questions, but this time the maximum mark is 30. The 20 mark, 10, 15 and 20 mark questions on this, again, a very similar style and format to GCSE papers. Paper 3, in which we look at an element of tectonics. We also look at energy challenges and development in Africa. This is an essay paper, but the skills for this paper are mainly taught in second year, and it's quite a good paper for being able to express yourself and show your knowledge of case studies. In addition to that, we have coursework. The coursework's worth 20%. The formal name for it's the non-examined assessment. So this non-examined assessment, it starts in sort of March, April time of your first year, and you finish it by March, April in the second year. So at the moment, my current year 12s who are going into year 13 have gone off and have started their coursework over the summer. The ability to do that with you guys, I'll just put a bit of a caveat on it really, does depend on sort of the whole coronavirus situation, but my current students are working around it, so I can't see any reason why any incoming students next year, like yourselves, would have a problem either. In terms of destinations after Bede, The geography course has quite a high number of students who go on to study geography related courses. Just under half of the second year cohort last year went on to study geography courses, and they head to universities such as University of East Anglia, which is one of the top ones for geography and environmental science courses, Newcastle, Northumbria and Teesside. We also have further down the line students going on and then specialising in various fields of geography. In terms of geography as a subject, a really important thing for me to get across to you guys is the skills that it brings. So geography is a really good facilitating subject because it brings with it lots of evaluation and analysis. And we do a lot of that through reviewing case studies, questioning the evidence that exists there. We also have a large amount of planning and time management being important in geography. So looking at managing your own time, planning from start to finish your own field work. Also within geography, communication is very important because a large amount of work can be done through a group scenario, whether virtually via Teams or physically sat at desks. And in doing that, it allows you to enhance your interpersonal skills, your ability to communicate and make decisions. In terms of sort of the subject itself and what you physically require, basically basic stationery and a calculator is pretty much all that's needed. There's no subject specific textbook that's particularly suited. Geography: An Integrated Approach by David Waugh is a particularly good book, but it doesn't cover necessarily our whole curriculum. It covers lots of content that we don't need to cover, so I'll advise you on some better books come September. WJC Educast, who our exams with, do publish study guides, but I'll recommend those in September as they're currently being updated, and I don't want to direct you to buying an old edition. In terms of questions that I get asked, probably the biggest, most, I wouldn't say awkward question, but the biggest, most open question that people ask is, where does geography take you? Well, according to the Royal Geographic Society, geography is one of the best subjects to study. And the reason for that is it gives you so many core skills that you can use in other areas. So whether you choose to go into something specialist, like environmental science, glacial study, going to work for the British Antarctic Survey, working for the civil service, planning, tourism, whether you decide to go into something like that, or whether you decide to go into something totally different, like the police force, into management, geography teaches you the skills such as your planning, your time management, your analysis and evaluation that lead you in to basically the opportunity to the world being your oyster. So geography is probably one of the best subjects to take, and actually geography graduates are some of the most employable people out there. So if you've got any questions, I'm going to hopefully get them fed to me in a minute. I'll answer those questions for you. So thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in September.